What we are building here is a Recruiter AI voice assistant, a system that can do the technical screening of candidates completely on its own. So far in this series, we have already gone deep into the architecture, the design choices, and the technology stack behind it. We have broken down both the resume agent and the interview agent in detail, and we have even walked through the prompt engineering that powers each of them. If you have not seen those earlier videos, I strongly recommend going back and watch them first. We have covered a lot of ground and it will give you the full picture of how everything fits together. In today's video, we are going to focus on testing our interview agent in a chat environment. This lets us verify that it is responding exactly the way we expect before we plug it into the full voice pipeline. Let's jump in. Next, let's look at how we test this agent. Not with voice just yet, but using a text-based simulation that lets us debug and refine before we ever hit a phone line. As I always say in these videos, test with text first. Even if the final product is a voice-based application, starting with text makes debugging easier, helps you iterate faster, and gives you full control over what is happening behind the scenes. Here is a script located in interview_chat to test the agent in text-based chat mode. Let's walk through it. This script loads a test candidate from the database, uses the resume agent to generate a resume summary, stores the summary into the candidate object, then launches an interactive chat loop with the interview agent, where you manually type the candidate's answers and see how the interview agent responds. This lets you simulate an actual voice conversation using the same agents and logic but in plain text. We start by loading a test candidate. Candidate_ID_testing is defined in .env, and it's linked to your test record in Supabase. We wrap the candidate in an agent dependency object. This is how we pass context to all our agents in a clean, consistent way. Now we run the resume agent. This generates a resume summary from the candidate's actual resume file stored in Supabase. We take the LLM's raw JSON output and parse it into a strongly typed resume summary object. We update the in-memory candidate object with the new summary. This ensures the interview agent has the right context when it starts. Candidate profile and resume summary will be our first input to the interview agent, kind of like handling it a dossier before the call starts. The first time through the loop, we feed the interview agent and the resume summary and profile. Then every other time, we ask to type what the candidate says next. This sends the candidate's message, what we type, to the agent along with prior context. The model returns an agent response, turn outcome, and turn outcome reasoning. We update our running chat history so the model knows what's been said before. We print the interviewer's response and wait for the candidate reply. Let's run the script and see how both resume and interview agent in action. To run the script, run python src interview_chat.py. Before we start the demo, here's what we expect to see. We should see the resume agent extract the resume and produce a resume summary. Then the interview agent will kick in and it should follow our prompt to introduce himself, the role, ask gatekeeper questions like have you already interviewed with the client, and then move on to some generic questions following with some specific technical questions. I've prepared answers for all questions and I will paste those answers in. Once the interview agent asks all the questions in order, the interview agent will wrap up the interview. For every response from the agent generates a structured output. The agent response, turn outcome, and turn reasoning. Turn reasoning meaning why it chose that outcome, which we purely log for debugging purpose. Let's start with the interview chat by running interview_chat Python script. Right, let's go ahead and run interview_chat Python script. Now the resume agent is running. It's fetching the candidate resume and it's going to create a summary. There is a resume summary. Now the interview agent is also kicked in and you can see the output format, right? First it gives agent_response. It's basically introducing, hey Jerry, it's great to connect with you today. Do you have 30 minutes to chat? The turn outcome is normal because it's just a normal greeting. And the turn outcome reasoning, this is an initial greeting and time confirmation, setting a friendly tone for the interview. The turn outcome reasoning, we don't use it for anything to drive the interview. We are including it for debugging. So I'm going to respond saying, yes, I have 30 minutes. Sure. Okay, now it's introducing itself. Are you ready to get started? Yes. Giving an overview now, introducing the technologies. I'm going to say, yes, I'm comfortable. Just going to type in yes. All right, now it's explaining the role and it's asking, does it align with our expectations? I'm going to say yes. Okay, now it goes to the gatekeeper questions, right? It is saying a couple of gatekeeper questions. First, have you already interviewed with Joy and Grace recently, within the last year? For which I'm going to say no, I have not. Okay, then comes the second gatekeeper question. It now says that the role requires 3 days a week in the Chicago office. Will that work for you? Yes. Now that we have cleared the gatekeeper questions, the turn outcome stays normal, right? Because we have cleared the gatekeeper questions. Now it's moving on to some basic generic questions. It's asking us to describe the current project and role. So I have some answers prepared. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste. Now it's asking for the system architecture of our project, right? So I have an answer for that. I'm going to copy and paste. I was asking, why did I choose those specific technologies for the project? So I got an answer for that. I'm going to put that in. You can see how naturally the agent is presenting with its response. Thanks for sharing your reasoning, Jerry. It sounds like a well thought out choice of technologies. We did not include this in the prompt, but it is trying to make the interview more conversational and more friendly. And finally, it asks, what trade-offs or challenges did you encounter with that stack? So I have an answer for that. So I'm going to put that in. Now we are moving on to some technical questions. How did you use dependency injection in .NET Core? And this is not a dynamic question. We had this question in our prompt. We want the interview agent to go through static questions and not like dynamic questions every single time, so that we use the same measuring stick across all candidates. And this gives us consistency in the evaluation. So I have an answer prepared for this question. So I'm going to copy. So it moves on to the next question. So I have an answer prepared for that. So here it's asking for value types and reference types. I'm going to give a half answer. I'm going to just explain the value types and see how the agent reacts to the answer. Okay, so now the agent correctly inferred we answered half of the question and not the other half, right? So it says, thanks for that, Jerry. And what about the reference types like classes and arrays? How do they differ from value types? So this is something we did not include in the prompt, but the agent rightly inferred that the question is not answered in full. So it's asking a follow-up, which is really great. So I have an answer for that. So I'm going to put that in. So if the answer is not clear or complete, the agent is asking the right follow-ups. So that is good. And that actually makes the interview more conversational. So now to the next question, which is third highest salary with SQL. So I'm going to copy my response and put it. Perfect. Now to the next question, which is multi-table join in SQL. Okay, so now it's asking, can you tell me about your work with Azure Cloud Services? Perfect. I have an answer prepared for that. So there it is. I mean, look at the turn reasoning also. The turn outcome is normal here because we are answering the questions properly. The turn outcome reasoning is the candidate provided a solid overview of their use of Azure, making it relevant to explore their experience in distributed and real-time systems. And it asked me a question about my experience building distributed or real-time systems. I got an answer for that. Now, a question about CI/CD pipeline. A question about testing strategies. That's a question on deployments and rollback. It's the last question in our prompt. So once we answer, the interview should actually wrap up. So let's see what happens and how the agent responds to my answer. We're specifically interested in seeing the turn outcome change. All right, this is good. So we have answered the last question. And here the turn outcome is still normal. But look at the turn outcome reasoning. The candidate has provided comprehensive answers on deployment strategies, leading us to the final part of the interview where they can ask questions, right? So the agent response was, now that we have covered a lot of ground, do you have any final questions for me about the role or company? For which I'm going to say, no, I'm all good. No, I am all good. So now the interviewer is actually wrapping up the call. So it has issued a turn outcome of wrap up. The turn outcome reasoning to be that the candidate has no further questions and all interview content has been covered, allowing for a smooth wrap up of the conversation. So the agent responds saying, great, thank you for your time today, Jerry. It was a pleasure learning about your experience and skills. If you think of any questions later, do not hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful day. And the turn outcome is correctly set to wrap up. And this turn outcome is really important. We use this outcome to decide what to do with the call, meaning in this case, actually to end the call. Now, that was actually a very good interview. The interviewer was polite. The introduction was good, covered all sections, asked all questions and even follow-up questions when needed, and did a perfect wrap-up at the end of the interview. More importantly, the turn outcome which we rely on to end the call was set to wrap up correctly at the end of the interview. Let's do one more quick test to test the turn outcome for the gatekeeper question. We will answer no to the work from office requirement and see what the agent will do for our response. All right, let's run the program again. As expected, the resume agent ran, gave us the resume summary, and then now the interview agent has started its execution. Do you have 30 minutes for a discussion? I'm going to say yes. It's introducing himself and it's asking, are you ready to dive in? I'm again going to say yes. Again, another introduction about the role. I'm going to say yes again. Again, it's trying to align us with the expectations and the roles. I'm going to say yes again. Okay, now to the first gatekeeper question. It's asking, have you already interviewed with Joy and Grace recently, like within the last year? I'm going to say no. Now, the on-site requirement question. So it's asking, this role requires working on-site 3 days a week in Chicago office. Will that work for you? I'm going to say no. I prefer working from home. Now it's reconfirming our response again. I understand your preference for remote work, Jerry. However, just to clarify, the role specifically requires being on site in Chicago 3 days a week. Is that something you can accommodate at all? Because in our prompt, we have asked the agent to reconfirm the response for the gatekeeper question. So that's why it's reconfirming. I'm going to say, sorry, I prefer working from home. So here, the LLM has changed the turn outcome from normal to candidate requesting end call because the candidate failed one of the gatekeeper questions. So based on the prompt, we've asked the prompt to actually choose gatekeeper failure in office not possible as the turn outcome. But at runtime, the LLM has to decide between the two. gatekeeper failure in office not possible, or candidate requesting end call. Because from the LLM point of view, the LLM actually asks the candidate again, reconfirming the gatekeeper question. The candidate clearly said they prefer working from home, so which in turn also means that the candidate is requesting to end the call. So both responses are fine for us. At the end, for either of the turn outcome, we want to actually end the call. So this is perfect. As long as the turn outcome is not normal, we are fine with either gatekeeper failure or the candidate requesting to end the call. Right. We have just tested the interview agent and it worked exactly as expected. It handled introductions, ran through all sections, followed up intelligently, and produced structured turn by turn outputs that we can track and analyze. So now we are ready to move on to the evaluation step. Now that the interview is complete, the next logical step is evaluation. This is where the evaluation agent comes in. It reads the entire interview transcript and generates a structured scorecard, a summary of strengths and weaknesses, and a final recommendation, all in one automated step. Let's look at how it works. The main code lives inside evaluation underscore agent Python script, which sits under the agents folder. At a high level, the evaluation agent uses one tool, update candidate evaluation in DB, which, as the name suggests, takes the evaluation results and updates the candidate record in the database. Let's do a walkthrough of the code. As we did with the other agents, first we enable observability. So if we have a Logfire token, we'll get nicely structured traces of the agent run. Now we define the agent. Here's what is happening. We've specified which LLM to use. In our case, O4 Mini, since we care more about reasoning than latency here. We pass in the system prompt, which we will dive into next. We specify that the output must be parsed into candidate evaluation object. So we get a structured Python object, not just raw text. When instrument equals true, enables observability. Now comes the tool itself. This is what the agent will call once it finishes its evaluation. This is super straightforward. It pulls a candidate from the run context, updates the evaluation field and status, persists the updated candidate record to Supabase via update candidate by ID, and returns the response, typically just a success confirmation. The agent itself is simple, but the real magic is in the prompt. Go over the evaluation agent prompt, because that's where the behavior is defined. First, we set the context. You are the evaluation agent for company name, which will be set at runtime, senior software engineering screening. You're expert in the role stack. Again, the role stack will be set at runtime, followed by system design, hands-on coding, and such. It is important the agent understands who it is, not just what to do. That helps steer tone and specificity. We also define clear goals for the evaluation agent. First, to evaluate the candidate, and once the evaluation is complete, invoke the tool update candidate evaluation in DB to persist your evaluation in the database. Next, we highlight a common edge case. This interview was conducted using voice interface. This section is critical. Since we are using VAPI and speech to text, sometimes a transcript will have weird artifacts, like repeated candidate answers, cut-off phrases, or moments where it sounds like candidate is ignoring the interviewer. We explicitly tell LLM to ignore those artifacts. Instead of assuming the candidate is being rude or confused, you should assume that those issues are caused by the voice interface. We even give the LLM a specific heuristic. Use only the last complete response for a repeated question. That level of instruction really helps reduce hallucinations and unfair scoring. Now let's break down the core evaluation logic. The prompt gives the model a clear numbered checklist. Read the full transcript. Rate 6 specific skill areas from 1 poor to 5 excellent. You should cover system design, hands-on coding, communication, confidence, ownership, and problem solving. We're also asking the LLM to write a short 5 to 8 sentence summary and make a binary recommendation, recommend or not recommend. Output the results as a JSON object, call the tool, and pass that object to the backend. The schema looks like this. This is what the agent is expected to output, and because we validate the response as a candidate evaluation model, we know we are getting structured, usable data. A couple of things I like about this setup. It sets clear tone control. The agent is told to assume good faith and focus on what the candidate says not on how well the voice transcript reads. It has built in robustness. We handle voice artifacts, repetitions, and missing context elegantly. It provides the LLM full life cycle. The agent does not just evaluate, it parses the results too, with no manual review step needed. This makes the whole evaluation process fast, consistent, and easy to scale. So once the interview ends, everything downstream is automatic. The evaluation is generated, saved to Supabase, and the candidate status is updated. And it all happens because we gave one smart agent a clear set of instructions, one tool, and a bit of empathy for weirdness of voice transcripts. Right. So far, we have built the brain of the Recruiter AI assistant, a structured database in Supabase, a resume agent that extracts structured insights, an interview agent that drives a full 30-minute technical screen, an evaluation agent that scores and summarizes the candidate, all backed by detailed production-grade prompts, not just some toy demos. We also tested both our resume and interview agent with a text-based chatbot. In the next videos, we'll go from brain to full automation. We'll cover interview simulation that lets us test full interviews with AI-powered simulated candidates. AI interviewer versus AI candidate. It'll be fun to watch. Auto-triggering interviews using AP Scheduler, hooking into Calendly to schedule real candidates, voice integration via VAPI, deployment to render, and how much this all costs. LLM, VAPI, Twilio, and everything. We will finish with a full demo end to end. If you want this Recruiter AI voice assistant or want a voice assistant something completely custom, we can help. Whether it's handling inbound calls, following up with leads, or automating something totally unique, we will help you figure it out. Book a free AI consultation call with us. Link is in the description below. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.